We recently received a late to the party Nintendo Direct in July, followed by a Nintendo Indie Direct this early August. Another set of 2 Directs within 2 weeks, just like Nintendo did this past spring. These 2 new Nintendo Directs, however, showcase no first-party titles whatsoever. These 2 Directs, however, were very laser focused on showcasing their third-party and indie developer partners previewing their latest games. So for those many or few Nintendo diehard fans who initially tuned in for the hopes of more Metroid Prime 4 or any possible new Zelda, Smash Bros, Star Fox, or even a newly announced Pokemon, were left sorely disappointed. Nintendo, however, was very wise enough to express the point visually that the following games will properly identify on screen which system the game is being advertised for, either for the Switch 1 or the Switch 2. And if any said title is to be supported for both portables, this showcase will visually inform you on the video HUD. But I do believe these Nintendo Directs were never designed to exactly blow the doors off hinges. These 2 Directs were carefully crafted to showcase awareness of all the quality number of third-party titles. I say save up your next round of first-party bangers for more appropriate times of the year, like the Summer Showcase season, Tokyo Game Show, or the Video Game Awards season. Nintendo showcased an abundance of third-party and indie titles. A lot of them are considered Nintendo safe, lots of JRPGs. Not too many Western developers were showcased here, but there were a few sprinkled in for good measure, including our first look at Star Wars Outlaws featured on Switch 2. We'll get to that in just a moment. Don't expect to be exactly blown away by what was shown, but these titles will surely continue filling out player backlogs for months or years to come. We won't go through each and every single solitary showcase title, but we will focus on a select few that were most impactful from both Nintendo Directs. So these select few titles are surely ones to be excited for going into 2026. And we're going to start with Capcom's Monster Hunter Stories 3, Twisted Reflections. Appeared to be captured running on the Switch 2 hardware. This game showcased impressively vibrant and clean-looking cel-shaded 3D visuals, all running buttery smooth in 60 frames. However, most of what was shown here was just the game's in-engine cinematic cutscenes, but as you and I both can see for ourselves, this game is developing along beautifully, and this game will surely eat up tens of hours of gameplay. Exploiting the option to play this title fully on the go will be a real treat for anyone of all ages. Monster Hunter Stories 3, Twisted Reflections, launches sometime in 2026. Next up, we have Bandai Namco's Dragon Ball Sparkling Zero for Switch 1 and the Switch 2. A direct port from the current gen consoles scaled down to both the Switches is a feat in its own right. The game was showcased running on the Switch 2, with very clean visuals from what we can tell, but it did appear to only be running in 30 frames and not 60 frames. For the unaware players, this game supports over 180 fighters. The game also supports an episode battle mode where you can relive classic Dragon Ball Z storylines or pave your own story arc. Reshape an epic DBZ story battle to your vision and obtain glorified victory. This game also features customized Joy-Con controls, bringing you even closer to the heat of every battle, in full detail, all in the palm of your hands with immersive motion controls. Dragon Ball Sparkling Zero launches this November the 14th. So we have EA Sports FC 26 Soccer, which is formerly FIFA, for the Switch 1 and the Switch 2. Displaying footage running on the Switch 2 version of the game looked pleasantly clean and responsive. However, from what was shown, this could have been the fault of the overall quality of the stream, but the footage appeared to be running in what appeared to be 30 frames and not 60 frames. While most integrations of FIFA games always ran at a consistent 60 frames, minus the dynamic cutscene close-ups. And the same could be applied to NFL's Madden. But with any luck, this game should run at a solid 60 frames post Day 1 launch. EA Sports FC 26 launches on both the Switch 1 and Switch 2 on September 26, with pre-orders for the title available right now. So moving on, we get back to Bandai Namco's Pac-Man World 2 Repack, the sequel to the reimagined reboot of the original Pac-Man. This is the sequel to the reimagined rebooted story of Pac-Man, set in modern 3D environment platforming in the same vein as Super Mario Odyssey or perhaps Crash Bandicoot or Sonic the Hedgehog, whatever have you. This footage was shown running on the Switch 2. This game will also be available on the Switch 1, so Switch 1 owners can join in on all the fun. This sequel shall now also support the option for available local co-op play, but there's no word on whether it will support online co-op play, more as this develops. Pac-Man World 2 Repack becomes available this September 26th for both the Switch 1 and the Switch 2, with pre-orders available right now. Coming up next, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, shown running on the Switch 2 hardware, displays stylized, densely rich cel-shaded environments with very large clusters of animated enemies on screen all at once. Clean and detail-rich cinematic cutscenes of all the main characters, along with a deep-rooted prequel story that sets up the timeline for The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. Now currently there is no official release date for Age of Imprisonment, but it's currently aimed for a winter 2025 release, so stay tuned as things develop. So Electronic Arts returns on stage with a port of Apex Legends for the Switch 2. Not much at all to say about this title other than it's just Apex Legends now in a better, cleaner enhanced visuals with a much more consistent 60 frames per second. Existing Switch owners should feel right at home with this updated port, so prepare to squad up and drop down with Apex Legends, available post August the 5th. Now, taking a deeper look at Star Wars Outlaws is a direct port from last year's Star Wars game of the same name, only from current gen consoles. The footage shown on display here was run natively on the Switch 2 hardware, and I have to be completely honest regarding what we've seen. The port's overall texture quality and frame rate left much to be desired. For example, the game's main female protagonist has skin textures that resemble more of a spread of peanut butter over a mannequin's head than a realistic person with skin textures. One could also tell the game's lighting system has been reduced completely in favor of noticeable light maps. The Switch 2 does have high-profile game ports such as Cyberpunk, but that game really has set Switch 2's benchmark levels of achievable realistic graphics. But once again, I have to be honest. As it stands, this port of Star Wars Outlaws, this simply isn't it, at least not in its current form. Leaving this game in the oven to be cooked a little bit longer could do this game port proper justice, but only time will tell one way or another. Star Wars Outlaws is set to release this September the 4th. Looper Team is up next with a port of Chronos: The New Dawn, which is arriving on the Switch 2 day 1. One can notice the reduced texture quality and the missing 60 frames from this port of Chronos, but that's okay to be honest. The game will still look great during handheld mode, all along with the remaining bells and whistles from the original current gen port. For all those dying to scratch another Dead Space-like itch, this one title looks to be doing that in spades. This game looks hella creepy to experience, and I can't wait to try this game out when it finally launches. Chronos: The New Dawn launches on Switch 2 this September the 5th. And lastly, we have Square. Square comes to the stage with that one more final game And then one last final game to our surprise was Square Enix's Octopath Traveler 0, which is a direct prequel to the first Octopath Traveler game. As expected, the game's footage was captured on Switch 2 hardware, and it looks absolutely beautiful. Some of the vistas from the game's trailer should look rather familiar to most players, while others are brand spanking new to our eyes. The game really is pure eye candy, all built on a 2.5D 3D engine. The game couldn't have looked better even on current gen consoles, so prepare to log a lot of hours on this one. Octopath Traveler 0 launches day 1 on the Switch 1 and the Switch 2 this holiday, December the 4th. And that is what I would say is a wrap from the combination of 2 Nintendo Directs and 1 overview. Now, as I mentioned moments before, this showcase of third-party and indie developer titles were not overly designed to blow your socks off, but they do very humbly fill the void of random boredomness, all while we're waiting patiently for Nintendo's fleet of full-scale AAA first-party games. I personally would deem these 2 combined showcases to a 7.5 out of 10. And I do believe that others will probably say and compare, and would agree with me, that this is a fair and honest opinion. And truth be told, the sheer number of third-party support displayed here today should keep your hands busy for the remainder of 2025 and through the better half of 2026. If you're currently a Switch 2 owner, there's no shortage of quality games for everyone to enjoy. So ask yourself this: why complain about what's not being shown here, when I can be simply staying and playing? And with that being said, I am Musical Weapon. Come back again. We'll do this again.